The rain slicked the windows of the exclusive gilded cage lounge, reflecting the city's neon pulse. Inside, Cashencroft, a man whose net worth could launch satellites, adjusted his worn flannel shirt. He had spent months curating this poor persona, a dilapidated studio apartment, a minimum wage job as a bicycle courier, and clothes that were one wash away from disintegrating. Tonight was the test. Tonight was the anniversary of his bankruptcy. He was waiting for Serafina Sterling, elegant, blonde, and possessing the kind of old money confidence that usually made Cashen's skin crawl. She was the daughter of his biggest rival. Everyone assumed she was with him for his non-existent money. When she arrived, her emerald silk dress looked absurd next to his stained jacket. She sat across from him, her honey-colored eyes devoid of the usual pity. "You look awful, Cashen," she murmured, reaching across the cracked table. Her hand, soft and manicured, found his callus from the delivery handlebars. "I can't afford to look good, Serafina," he snapped, leaning forward. He wanted to see the disappointment. He wanted her to leave so he could finally close the book on her sterling family line. "The rent is late again. The landlord is threatening eviction. And your father just bought the building I work in. He'll probably fire me tomorrow." He watched her face, waiting for the calculated retreat. The Sterlings didn't associate with losers. Isabella didn't retreat. Instead, a single tear traced through her makeup. She didn't look at his cheap shirt. She looked into him, a depth of genuine sorrow in her eyes that threw Cashen off balance. She squeezed his hand, her gaze locked onto his. "My father," she whispered, her voice a fragile defiance. "He's a monster. I know what he did. I know he's the one who orchestrated your bankruptcy." Cashen's heart hammered against his ribs. That was not in the script. He was the monster. He had orchestrated his own downfall to destroy her family. "But it doesn't matter, Cashen," she continued, her voice gaining strength. "None of it matters. The penthouse, the parties, none of it felt real until I met the courier, who treats me like a normal human being. If they take your apartment, take mine. If they fire you, we'll sell my art." The romance he had been faking was replaced by a raw, magnetic pull. He had spent months expecting a checkbook response, but Isabella was offering her life. The wall he had built didn't just crack, it shattered. He didn't want the revenge anymore. He didn't want the Sterling name in the dirt. He just wanted her. He grabbed her waist, pulling her flesh against him, his mouth crashing down onto hers in a kiss that was half battle, half surrender. Suddenly, the lounge doors swung open. Marcus Sterling, Serafina's father and Cashen's intended victim, walked in, flanked by two armed security guards. "Serafina," Marcus roared, his face contorted in fury. "What are you doing with this, trash? I told you to stay away from him. He has nothing left to give you." Marcus Sterling's voice echoed like a crack of thunder in the otherwise silent lounge. The few patrons remaining, who had paid $500 cover charges to ignore the outside world, were now glued to the drama unfold. Serafina froze in Cashen's arms, the warmth of their kiss instantly evaporated by her father's glacial presence. She didn't look back, her hand tightened on Cashen's collar, her knuckles white. "Stay back, Marcus," Cashen growled, his voice stripped of his courier persona and replaced by the resonant authority that usually terrified boardrooms. He pushed Serafina gently behind him, effectively caging her against the edge of the plush velvet booth. "Or what, courier boy?" Marcus sneered, stepping into the dim light. "You'll deliver my eviction notice? I own this lounge now, along with the very air you're breathing." He snapped his fingers at the guards. "Get that gutter trash out of here. And bring my daughter. We have an empire to run." The guards lunged, but the poor courier wasn't moving like a man who struggled to buy ramen. Cashen deflected the first guard's clumsy grab, using the man's momentum to send him crashing into a pyramid of champagne glasses. The crash was deafening, a shower of crystal and expensive liquid cascading over the floor. "Stop," Serafina screamed, stepping out from behind Cashen. She stood between him and the remaining guard, her eyes blazed with a defiance that made Marcus hesitate. "I'm not going anywhere with you, father. You didn't own me when I was 5, and you certainly don't own me now." She grabbed Cashen's hand, pulling him toward the back exit. They burst out of the air-conditioned lounge and into the warm, slick night. They ran until they reached an alley 3 blocks away, hidden in the labyrinth of the garment district. They were both soaked from the rain and exhilarated by the escape. "He knows," Cashin rasped, pinning her against a brick wall. The romance was no longer in the letters. It was in the adrenaline. He had spent months expecting a checkbook response, but Isabella was offering her life. The wall he had built didn't just crack. It shattered. He didn't want the revenge anymore. He didn't want the Sterling name in the dirt. He just wanted her. He grabbed her waist, pulling her flesh against him, his mouth crashing down onto hers in a kiss that was half battle, half surrender. "He doesn't know anything," she murmured, her hand sliding up to frame his jaw. "He just knows I chose you over him." The pawn had just declared checkmate on the king. Cashin looked into her honey-colored eyes, bathed in the strobe-like reflection of a neon sign. He could have told her then. He could have explained that he didn't need her art sales or her apartment, that he could buy her father's entire Sterling line before sunrise. But as he pulled her closer, his heart hammering a frantic rhythm, a single text message buzzed on his encrypted phone, tucked inside his boot. "Boss, check the encrypted files again. Marcus Sterling didn't buy her building. It was framed by his CFO, Marcus. And the man who did it is sitting in your inner circle." The brick alley, slick with rain and neon, was a fortress for their quiet desperation. Cashin stared at Serafina, the crushing weight of his monumental failure settling in. The text message from his lead investigator sat like poison on his phone. Marcus Sterling hadn't bankrupted him. Marcus Sterling hadn't bought his building. The CFO of his own Croft Industries, a man he called friend, was the puppet master. He looked at Serafina, her expression softening from defiance into an intimate vulnerability that made his breath catch. "Stay here," he ordered, his voice stripped of the courier act, resonating with raw, lethal authority. "I need to fix something. Now." "Fix what, Cashin?" she asked, grabbing his hand. "You don't need to fix anything for me. We just escaped." "It's not for you," he rasped, pulling his hand away with a jerk that made her flinch. "I was wrong. About everything." He sprinted out of the alley, ignoring her calls. He wasn't the romantic courier anymore. He was the apex predator who had realized he'd spent 10 years hunting the wrong prey while a snake coiled in his own bed. He dialed his head of security. "Lock down Croft Tower. Deploy the counterintel team. I want the CFO brought to my private suite. Do not engage until I am on site." He arrived at the glistening Croft Tower just as the sun began to bleed over the horizon. He bypassed security, riding his private elevator to the 90th floor. He found his CFO, Elias, sitting in his chair, a laptop open and a glass of Cashin's most expensive scotch in his hand. "You're early, Cashin," Elias said, not looking up from the numbers scrolling across the screen. "I thought you'd be occupied with the Sterling girl." "The files were a lie, Elias," Cashin growled, stepping into the massive, sun-drenched office. "Marcus Sterling didn't buy my building. You did. You bled me dry and pointed the finger at the Sterlings, so I'd do your dirty work, dismantling your only competition." Elias let out a slow, dry chuckle. "And you did it beautifully. You spent months pretending to be poor to destroy a girl who, ironically, is the only person who actually loves you. While you were playing courier, I was legally dissolving Croft Industries. It's all gone, Cashin. Vane, Sterling, everything." Cashin lunged, grabbing Elias by the throat, but the doors swiped open. 2 armed private security guards stood there, their expressions neutral. They weren't his men. They were Elias's. "Get out of my building," Elias hissed, adjusting his tie as the guard stepped forward. "Actually," Marcus sneered, adjusting his tie as the guard stepped forward, "I think it's time you went home to your wife. While you still have a home." Cashin was escorted out of his own building, the crushing weight of his colossal failure nearly buckling his knees. He had traded a woman who loved him for a revenge that was a lie, and now he had lost both. He drove back to his dilapidated apartment, the silence of the car deafening. He opened the door to find the small space empty. Serafina wasn't there. Only a single note sat on the counter, next to a check she had written him for her art sales. You were right, Cashin. We can't afford to look good. I thought I loved the man who treated me like a human being, but I see now I was just another delivery for you. My father was right. You have nothing left to give.
Goodbye.
The rain slammed against the high-rise windows of Croft Tower, blurring the city lights into streaks of neon. The penthouse suite, usually a display of understated power, was a wasteland of overturned furniture and shredded files. Cashin stood in the center of the destruction, his tailored shirt rumpled, a bloody cut across his cheek. He had been blindsided, betrayed, and stripped of his empire in a single night. Across the room, Elias, the man he had called friend, smirked. 2 armed guards framed him. It's over, Cashin, Elias said, adjusting his cufflink. You ran yourself into the ground for a ghost. A revenge that was a lie I invented. Sterling wasn't bankrupting you. I was. Cashin wiped the blood from his cheek, his gaze steady on Elias. He wasn't the broken billionaire. He was a man who had spent months learning how to survive on a bicycle, and a different kind of authority now resonated in his voice. I was wrong about Marcus Sterling, Elias. And I was wrong about you. But I was right about one thing. He didn't look at Elias. He looked at the silhouette standing by the floor-to-ceiling window. Serafina was there, watching the storm, her hand resting on the glass. I thought I loved the courier, she whispered, not turning around. But you were just playing another game. It was a game, Cashin admitted, stepping around a fallen chair, ignoring the guard's tense movements. A cruel, stupid game I invented to hurt your father. Because I thought he killed my father's legacy. But I was the one who was framed. We both were. You lost your company, Cashin. Elias cut in, a hint of desperation in his smirk. And now you've lost the girl. Just go. I don't have a company anymore, Elias, Cashin said, stepping into the open. I have something better. I have the truth. And I have the only person who actually loves me. You broke me, Cashin, Serafina said, turning to face him. Her honey-colored eyes were bright with unshed tears, but her gaze was fierce. My father was right. You have nothing left to give. I would have given you the world, Serafina, Cashin vowed, stepping into her space, ignoring the guns pointed at his back. I would have traded every stock I ever owned for one of those Tuesdays when you made me sell your art. I was wrong, Isabella, but I'm going to spend every day of the rest of my life making up for it. He didn't wait for her to respond. He lunged at Elias, not as the billionaire CEO, but as the courier who knew how to use momentum. He disarmed the first guard, sending him crash into a massive flat screen. The second guard fired, a single shot, but a deafening crack of thunder drowned it out as the bullet embedded itself in the mahogany desk. Serafina didn't scream. She grabbed a crystal award from the mantelpiece and brought it down on Elias's head. He dropped, unconscious. The remaining guard froze. Cashin didn't even look at him. He turned to Serafina. She looked like a goddess of war, her emerald dress torn, her platinum blonde hair wild. You're a fool, Serafina Sterling, he rasped, his voice thick with a sudden, terrifying vulnerability. I'm an artist, she countered, a spark of her old fire returning even as she trembled. And I wasn't going to let a desert have the last word. The company is gone, Cashin said, his hands shaking as they checked her for wounds. I have nothing left to give you. I would have given you the world. Julian, she murmured, her arms winding around his neck, pulling him down into the heat. But you're here now. Stop fighting the war, Julian. Just be here with me. The revenge was dead. In its place was something much more powerful, a love that had been forged in the dark and was finally ready for the light.